What's up everybody, it's the Strange Vision here with a new video for you guys today. Today I want to give you my top 5 wrestling podcasts. Now my number 5 podcast goes to the Ross Report with Jim Ross. Now Jim Ross on this podcast, he's not very entertaining, he's real serious, you know what I mean? But what you do get out of this podcast is, his insights on the business today, and he has a lot of really good guests on that are very interesting, and a lot of old school wrestlers, a lot of wrestlers from today. Usually his podcast starts out with him giving his thoughts on maybe like Raw or a pay-per-view, just the current product as it stands, and then he'll usually have a guest on. And like I said, not the most entertaining, but a lot of information, good information you can get out of this podcast. My number 4 podcast is Talk is Jericho with Chris Jericho. Now this podcast, unlike Jim Ross's podcast, is very entertaining. And one thing I have to say about Chris Jericho's podcast is, his podcast ain't all about wrestling, and his guests ain't always wrestlers. And I have to say that a lot of times I'm like, I'll see who he has on as a guest, and I want to skip over it because it has nothing to do with wrestling. But sometimes I might have a listen just to see, and a lot of times I really enjoy those podcasts. Sometimes he might have somebody from the film industry, or a musician, or somebody from the music industry. And like I said, a lot of times I enjoy those just because Chris Jericho is so entertaining and funny. He's so funny. And if there's anything bad I have to say about his podcast, is sometimes, now this is nitpicking, but sometimes I feel like he talks way too much about his band Fozzy. That's the only thing I have to say bad about his podcast. So number 4 goes to Chris Jericho, Talk is Jericho. Number 3 goes to the Steve Austin Show with Stone Cold Steve Austin. Now Stone Cold has 2 shows, one on Tuesday and one on Thursday. One's a family friendly show, that's on Tuesday, and Thursday is the Unleashed show, where there's everything's all the rules are thrown out the door. He cusses and talks about whatever he wants. You might not know it, but he is hilarious. I mean, I swear to God, he could be a comedian. And I could sit and listen to him talk about anything. And that's how his show is too. He don't always talk about wrestling. A lot of times it's about hunting, and I'm not no hunter, and I don't care about hunting, but I can listen to him talk about hunting. He's just very entertaining, very funny. Stone Cold is real busy, so he don't always get the chance to have guests on all the time. Sometimes it's just him talking for an hour or so, and it's just him bullshitting basically, and it's very entertaining. But he has a lot of good guests on when he does. He's had a lot of wrestlers from the past on that's very interesting, and so I very highly recommend you check out the Steve Austin Show. I swear to God, you'll love it. Now number 2 is a podcast that they're not they're not former wrestlers, and they're not wrestlers. They're just average people putting out a podcast. This show right here is for people who don't take wrestling that seriously. You just want to laugh at the business, not like not like in a bad way, but just like, we all know wrestling is not at its best right now. In my opinion, I'm not really enjoying wrestling at all right now. So in order to keep myself into wrestling, I have to laugh at it, and this podcast is perfect for that, and it's called Wrestling Soup, and it's 2 guys named Missionary and Joey Numbers. And like I said, it's not a serious wrestling show. As a matter of fact, their slogan or whatever is, we're a podcast that just happens to talk about wrestling. This show is very funny. They take phone calls, and they got a lot of people that they take phone calls from that are, some of them are cringe, you just cringe when you listen to them, but it's funny. I highly recommend you check out Wrestling Soup. Very good podcast. Now my number one podcast goes to the Don Tony and Kevin Castle show. Two-man show, Kevin Castle and Anthony DiBlasi. Now these guys are older wrestling fans that really know the business, and to be honest, this is the show that got me into listening to podcasts. This is the first show that I started listening to. I just wanted to just see what podcast was about, and I wanted to hear a wrestling podcast, so I just got on iTunes and I saw like it said something like best wrestling podcast of 2008 or something like that. So I just clicked on it and I started listening. I was automatically hooked, and I've never missed a show ever. I've listened to every single episode of the Don Tony and Kevin Castle show. Like I said, these two guys, when they make predictions, they're almost spot on all the time because they're very educated in the business. It's my favorite show. Might not be for everybody, but to me, I could listen to these guys talk all day long because they know what they're talking about. Sometimes I get a little aggravated because I don't agree with what they're saying, but at the end of the day, they give it to you real, and you can't fault them for that. Like I said, you might not agree with what they say, but they're more than likely right. And that's what I like about this podcast. Really cool guys. My favorite podcast of all time. Alright guys, that's my favorite wrestling podcast, or my top 5 wrestling podcasts. I know I've been gone for a while, but hopefully I'm really going to get back into YouTube, and I've got I've been buying a lot of stuff to make my YouTube better. So I really appreciate it if you would hit that subscribe button, like this video, and leave a comment if you'd like, and tell me more of what you might want to see from me. Like I said, I'm gonna start doing gaming stuff, and I'm gonna talk about wrestling. I'm gonna talk about I don't know, anything. But like I said, tell me what you think, and I appreciate you watching this video, and I'll catch y'all next time.